This is Maine View, a public service of Blueberry Broadcasting. I'm Ric Tyler. Today, a conversation with Marty and Donald Kelly. They join us by telephone. Where do you live?
Glenburn.
And as I understand it, you have, I understand you have two sons, but tell me first about Kenneth. How old is Kenneth?
Kenneth is 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was diagnosed with autism at age 2. And we spent a couple of years really not being sure if that's what was wrong with him or not. We had never vaccinated him, so we had always heard about the links between vaccinations and autism. So he still had delays.
Mm-hmm.
Then at age 5, we had to send him to school, so he got all his vaccinations, and they did them all in one day.
Mm-hmm.
All of the, I think there was like 16 different kinds they did in one day. And since then, his autism really escalated. He went from being a really calm, quiet, just really good, boy to now he screams, he's aggressive, he has all the negative traits.
So it would be easy for someone just coming into the conversation to think that there is a link between the vaccinations which Kenneth took in order to go to school and Kenneth's autism.
He did have autism. There was no denying that, which there are extensive reasons why I believe that he had got autism. But definitely after 5, whatever he had escalated probably 100-fold.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing Kenneth has doctors that he visits regularly?
We have had him to pediatricians, and basically we looked into, other moms had told us about a doctor called a DAN doctor, which specifically treats autistic kids through other ways that are not necessarily accepted by the medical community yet. And that's when we learned about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, diet and supplements and so forth. And we got him right away onto a diet called the specific carbohydrate diet. Mm-hmm. And we bought a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and we started treating him in that. We go in 3 hours a day. It winds up being about 90 hours a month in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
A hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Now, other media events of past would have some people perhaps familiar with a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I can imagine they're not inexpensive, are they, Donald?
No, not at all.
And are they covered by insurance?
No, not at all.
Can you give us an idea as to how much a hyperbaric oxygen chamber would cost?
Well, the alternative to buying one was to rent one, and he has over 700 hours in the chamber. And the blessing with the chamber is that it induces oxygen into the body, mm-hmm. Which generates more cells that heal those areas that are inflamed. So if you rented one for $300 an hour, times 700, and you do the math, then it becomes quite expensive. So, but if you do purchase one, there are other parents that becoming familiar with HBOT, and therefore you can resell them. So, mm-hmm. You could spend $20,000 to $30,000 for an HBOT.
And I can you just don't go to Home Depot and find an HBOT, do you?
No, it has to be through a doctor, and it has to be prescription. And without the prescription and the doctors, of course, you cannot purchase one because they have they sell them to you. Mm-hmm.
Marty, just a moment ago you mentioned Kenneth's physical actions. How does he take to spending time in the HBOT?
Kenneth does amazing in there. It's great. We go in, we can take in movies or computer and so forth, and we also help him out with his reading and math in there. So it's a great time. It's one-on-one with us, and in there he wears a mask, and he's breathing, oxygen through the mask.
And what has been Kenneth's reaction physically or concerning his dealing with autism since spending time in the HBOT?
He is great. There is a huge difference between when he's in the chamber and when he's not in the chamber. He immediately is calm. There's no hyperactivity. What else does he do, Donald? That's just, at school, they notice a difference. Mm-hmm. We were getting ready to do stem cells, so he hasn't been in the chamber now for a while, probably 2 months, and it's really, you can really tell he's just...
Now, you just mentioned a moment ago, we're getting ready to do stem cells.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that, if you would.
We've been looking at this for a couple of years now, and it was just such a miracle story that we didn't really know what to think of it. And there was a boy in Orlando that went over to get adult stem cells in Costa Rica, and he was definitely lower functioning than our son at that point, and now he's almost recovered. So we're really thinking that this is something that's going to help our son, because it does much the same thing that the hyperbaric oxygen chamber does. Hyperbaric oxygen, the chamber creates stem cells in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically injecting them with the umbilical cord blood, the adult stem cells, and it's just a quicker, more effective way to treat the brain and to treat other areas of damage.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Marty and Donald Kelly on this edition of Maine View. Their son Kenneth, 8 years old, did you say?
Yes, he's 8.
8 years old, and after receiving vaccinations to go to school, it perhaps a heightened, I don't know exactly the term to use here, but heightened the autism that Kenneth deals with, using an H-bot, difficult to say this, I didn't write it down. But hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which no parent should ever have to be familiar with that term. I'll say that. That has helped. And now the idea of using stem cells, and you said there was a youngster in Orlando with a more severe case perhaps of autism that has received treatment and now is leading something closer to a normal life. How did you come to learn about the possibility of stem cells? And you mentioned it's in Costa Rica. It's not in the United States. It's out of the country.
Yeah, there has been lots of clinical trials in the United States with adult stem cells. And President Bush really was the first president to fund all of these adult stem cell trials. I think there have been over 700 here in the United States for other conditions other than autism,
cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis,
MS,
fibromyalgia, Parkinson's disease. It goes on and on and on.
And they're having great success with it, with the adult stem cells. There are a lot of dangers with embryonic stem cells, which is something that we just don't agree with anyways.
There is a strong line that was drawn in during the stem cell debate during the latter part of the Bush administration, and that is embryonic stem cells. Some argue you're creating life and possibly taking life in order to help someone, whereas adult stem cells are taken directly out of an adult, and there's no creation. You're not meddling with creation, perhaps. I don't know if that's an acceptable way to put it.
Our son's life is definitely not more valuable than another life, and we would never go that way. And plus, those are very powerful cells, but you do see a lot of trouble with that where they just don't stop growing, and you get tumors and all sorts of things that we just don't know enough about yet.
How frustrating is it that you need to go to Costa Rica in order to get this adult stem cell treatment for your son, and you just can't do it in Bangor, Portland, Boston, New York?
I think, unfortunately, now a lot of the funding is going toward embryonic. You're not going to see a lot of adult stem cell things happening here in the United States. It's probably going to be a lot of time. But the good thing is there are still trials with the adult stem cells. Like you can go to Peru or Costa Rica, different places, to get that done. And we have talked to a lot of parents that are treating their kids for autism that have gone to this place in Costa Rica, and they're seeing results. So we are sticking with the clinic that we're hearing a lot of good testimonials from.
I'm sure as a parent, you care so much for your son Kenneth that you would spend a fortune on an H-bot and through also the years of sacrifice personally. But I'm sure that you would so thoroughly check out a clinic in Costa Rica before committing to having your son treated there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's and there is no danger or harm whatsoever.
These doctors have all been trained in the United States. Most of them have gone to really reputable universities like Hopkins and different medical. They've all been trained here in the U.S. And then they've gone and done after their research with the adult stem cells, have set up in Costa Rica because it's not allowed here.
And again, the frustration. They're practicing in Costa Rica because they're not allowed to practice here.
I just never looked at that, at the negative side of it. I'm just happy that there is somewhere we can go and that we live in America and we have the option to find treatments for our child and can take him there and do those.
Donald, can I ask you, I asked you about the price of an H-bot. I'm curious how much to uproot the family. I'm guessing, I don't know if both yourself, Donald, and Marty, along with Kenneth, will be going. I know there's another, I guess there's another youngster in your family. I don't know if the entire family is going to Costa Rica. I can only imagine it means a second mortgage on the home or something.
Well, there are parents that would do anything to help their children, and if there is a way that it can be done, then you do it. Mm-hmm. And that means whatever you have to do is working extra or placing a second mortgage or any type of monetary means is worth escalating your child to a normal life. And he's born into this world to be normal and to face the challenges that you face growing up and then becoming an adult. So,
let me ask again. We're chime in and ask this: has the family gone into deep debt in caring for Kenneth? If that's not too bold a question.
Well, it's obviously
the potential's there.
Potential is there. It's not only just the H-bot and the stem cells. It's the continuous biomedical treatments, the gastrointestinal issues. He's gone to doctors up and down the East Coast. He's had an endoscopy, pill cams, colonoscopy, and again, partially covered by insurance. But then you have travel time and hotels and airfare, and it goes on and on and on. And it's just it's a sacrifice that you have to make, and you do it.
You look at it. We did there's a hard chamber that we did in Florida, and that winds up being $300 an hour. Mm-hmm. So that was around $12,000 for a month of treatment in the hard chamber, none of which would be covered by insurance. So, I mean, idealistically, he does need hard chamber as well, but when you add up all these costs a couple times a year doing that, and the cost is just, he sees a GI specialist out of New York City. That's the place we have to go because they treat autism, and their research with the GI tract is, no one around here can identify these things that they're seeing patterns of in the autistic spectrum. This is cutting-edge medical intervention that they're doing, and we want to be on top of the treatment because we can't wait 30 years for this to be medically accepted. He needs to be fixed now.
We're talking with Donald, and that was Marty Kelly, a family from, did you say Glenburn?
Yes.
Glenburn, Maine, and their son Kenneth. Is this a gamble? Is it a gamble in that we're not sure we can invest the money? We'll take Kenneth to Costa Rica with the adult stem cell treatment, which they have to do there because it's not allowed here in the United States. And there's 60-40, 50-50, 40-60 chance that this will work. Have any of the medical experts given you odds?
Yeah, a lot of people have given us numbers. They say the worst case scenario is nothing will happen. They say that when we called the clinic, I think they're saying somewhere around 80% do see some improvement. I mean, not a lot of people are seeing what this boy in Orlando had seen for improvement. But the good thing is that if you respond to hyperbaric oxygen therapy, then you will respond to stem cells.
Marty, how much improvement in Kenneth's life will be enough? And I know the answer to this already, but I'll ask it anyway. How much improvement in Kenneth's life will be enough to seem that all that you've gone through is worth it?
I think he's improved to the point now that, it's been worth it for us. The hyperbaric, I don't think he was talking much before we started that, and he was 5.5 years old. He could never come up to me and say, my stomach hurts. Last summer, he would say, oh, Mom, my stomach, it hurts me. If he eats something that he's not supposed to, he complains. He's doing great. And the stem cells, I believe, are just going to take him that much further and help heal his stomach. He has holes in his stomach. They have special cells that are specifically for gastrointestinal issues.
Let me ask of the timeline here. What is the timeline for Kenneth leaving Maine, going to Costa Rica, receiving this treatment?
Over 4 days, he's going to be injected with 2 different types of cells. One is for the brain and one is for the GI tract. He'll get around 18 million to 24 million stem cells, and that will be within a week. We'll be down there a whole week in Costa Rica. And you leave for Costa Rica when? We leave Sunday. I leave Sunday. Donald hasn't got his passport yet. Oh, Donald. What am I going to do with you?
We applied for those, Rick, 8 weeks ago. They got theirs, and I didn't get mine. And they just sent him a note saying, oh, sorry, you need a better validation for your name, because his parents never named him when he left the hospital. So they just told us that a few days ago. So 8 weeks. We'll get it. It should be here this week. And then how long before the medical officials tell you that you should see some indication from Kenneth as to how well this adult stem cell treatment in Costa Rica has worked for him? Within 6 months, but you know what? I know we're going to see results probably while we're there. I know that he's just going to, I know this is going to help him. I bet we're going to see results in the first couple of weeks with him. You have another son, don't you? Yeah, we have a little girl who's 3. Oh, okay. And then we have Philip, who's 10. How are Kenneth's siblings in dealing with this? They are great with him, and they deal with it very well. Actually, there are obviously trials and tribulations that you go through, with the normal children and the family. But of course, they deal with it well, and they all love each other very much, and so it's a task. It's a task for them, I'm sure. But also they also play together and do many things together. So it works out. Are there any other parents who are going through the same thing? As in stem cells or with autism? Oh, well, autism, and then looking at this opportunity for stem cell research to help their child. I don't know of anyone looking into this. I know that some parents were looking into the hyperbaric. I think up here it's just kind of slow in taking off. I know we're down in the southern part of the United States, Florida, California, a lot of people are going there. But I haven't heard of many even in New England that know about this. The reason we heard about it was this girl had gone there, too. Her story was a miracle, kind of. She went to the same clinic at 8 years old. She wasn't talking. And then to see the video after of her talking, counting, just doing normal things was kind of unbelievable. Donald and Marty Kelly, when you, along with your son Kenneth, return from Costa Rica, do you believe, have you the faith to think that Kenneth is going to be the boy that will be out in the front yard playing catch with his brother, and you'll have to yell to him to come into dinner, and everything will be normal? And normal is kind of the operative word here. Normal? Yeah. I think so. Sometimes you have to go back. The stem cells will work for a certain amount of period. He'll take him to a certain point, and then he'll plateau. And we'll probably have to go back a couple more times. But I do believe every time we go that we're going to see huge improvements. I mean, just if the hyperactivity gets calmed down, that'll be a big result for us. Plus, we're going to keep up with the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and that also will help the new stem cells. Donald and Marty Kelly of Glenburn, speaking of their son Kenneth, who leaves for Costa Rica for adult stem cell treatment. We'll catch up with the Kellys and find out how Kenneth did in an upcoming edition of Maine View, a public service of Blueberry Broadcasting.